Alright guys, today we're going to take a look at Mahito and where he'd be in the current story. Now, as we know, there's currently the ultimate battle between Sukuna and Gojo, but what we're going to take a look at is where, according to, a little bit lesser tier characters, where Mahito would fit in. Now, of course, the last time we saw Mahito was at the end of Shibuya when he took a defeat at the hands of Yuji Itadori and Todo. Now, it was more so Yuji and a little less Todo, but his insane battle mode is actually one that we can look at and scale from. Now, he's not always in that battle mode, but what we can look at is where he'd scale in base and where he scale with that specific mode. Now, of course, looking at Mahito's base, the last feats we see from him are a pre end of Shibuya Yuji and, of course, Todo. Now, Yuji does get stronger from that battle and his obviously subsequent battles in Shibuya. But when he gets out, what Choso refers to him as is now a demon god, right? So he does seem to be stronger even there. And that's before he fights Yuta. And, of course, Choso fights Naoya. Now, in that scenario, what we do see is that, in fact, he does have relative feats to Yuta, who's essentially trying to kill him here. His point is to defeat and kill him. So if he does, in fact, kill him, it does look like he'll be able to kind of finish his mission and present him as dead to the Jujutsu Society and the elders. But a lot of people think that Yuta's still holding back there. Now, I've given reason as to why he's not. If you guys want to go ahead and believe that he still is, we can go ahead and look at other scaling as well. Now, of course, the events after this are Yuji fighting in the pre-events leading to the Culling games, which is against Hikari in a fist-to-fist or hand-to-hand base Hikari fight. That doesn't do too much because base Hikari doesn't have too many stats. But the more important things happen after. Yuji's able to fight multiple people, with the ultimate pinnacle of this being a 15-finger Maguna. Now, when he fights Maguna, obviously his cursed energy output is held back, but what we're not trying to scale off of that. What we're looking at are his physical stats, okay? So 15-finger Maguna is above most of the verse here. He's going hand-to-hand with a completely realized and awakened Maki who scales to Toji. So that means base Yuji here scales to Toji, right? And if that's the case, that means that Yuji has now just completely upscaled his abilities as far as his physical fighting abilities. Now, the only thing with Yuji is his curse technique doesn't change much. But if his base physicals are at this level, and he can still hit with Black Flash, which he can, that means that he'll actually be much, much stronger. And a Black Flash from this current Yuji would do a lot of damage to battle mode Mahito. So we can look at other characters. Now, Maki, who I just mentioned, is relative. So in this case, she also has her Soul Split Katana, which can neg durability, and just straight up, she can kill Mahito with one hit, right? She could potentially just one-shot him, okay? So if that's the case, she is no real match for him. There are other characters like the Sendai 3. We can look at the Cockroach Spirit. Obviously, the woman who manipulated the sky, Oro. And we can look at Ryu. So out of those three, the Cockroach is the one that seems the least difficult to defeat. But even him was able to go relative to Yuta. And it took Yuta using some abilities to be able to defeat him, right? Now, I have Yuta, and he is above Yuji that is after Shibuya, right? So that puts him, even then, above that Mahito, right? The only question would be, well, can Yuta circumvent his soul regen, right? And if that's the case, and we're looking into it, his soul manip and his soul defense isn't the only way to defeat Mahito. As we see previously, Nanami's able to predict that he can defeat him just by attacking him recursively, just beating him up over and over until he runs out of cursed energy. Although he doesn't have enough, Nanami has enough cursed energy to defeat him that way, or you can straight up one-shot him, right? Which is why Mahito has the dodge Nanami. So in that scenario, it does look like Yuta or the Cockroach Spirit that fought Yuta could still win. Now, if we want to go into later fights, which is the Sendai, Uro, and Ryu supposedly has the highest cursed energy output we've ever seen. So if anybody can one-shot him, that would be Ryu, okay? So it seems like someone who scales the Yuta, which is above that Yuji, and has higher output, would be able to one-shot, right? A Yuta with Rika amp as well. Now, looking at Uro, she also has relative feats and her domain. So, with those relative feats, she also scales above Mahito. The only other thing to look at is domain, and it doesn't seem like Mahito has a refined domain to the same level as these guys. So, I seriously doubt he out domain battles them. So, in every scenario, they seem to win, right? Now, there are other characters on a lower tier like Megami, and I wouldn't consider him too much. I think he's about relative with Mahito. It would be a good fight. The only thing is, depending on the scenario, could Megami pull out his domain? But his is very unrefined. So I think in a domain battle, he loses the Mahito and dies there. So I kind of have my opinions on it. There are a few others, of course, like Angel, who I think was straight up one-shots Mahito. It's not even a question. She did major damage to 15-finger Maguna. Kashimo, oh my gosh, like obliterates. We also have Hikari. If he goes into jackpot, obliterates. It's no contest. And a few others. Now, there's some lower tiers. Higuruma is another one. If he cuts off Mahito's cursed energy and his ability to manipulate the soul, and then gets the Executioner Sword in his domain, which he would, because Mahito has obviously killed a lot of people in the series. He one-shots, right? So, considering most fighters in that level, it's pretty easily the case that Mahito loses to essentially all of them. And I wouldn't consider it much of a fight. But if you guys have any differing opinions, or if there's any characters I didn't mention you guys want to talk about, of course, feel free to mention them. And, I'll go back over them if the list allows. So, thank you guys for your time. Appreciate it. And more content coming soon.